Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a lot to cover today because this is going to be a massive part. Before we get into that though, we got to shout out the patron as always. So PJ Haskins, thank you very much for the support. And you guys, lately we've been pulling the best numbers possible that we have on YouTube ever since I started the channel. So I just want to continue to thank you for all the support you've been providing. And to continue doing so, please don't forget to take a look at these numbers down below right here and drop a like and a comment so that way we can help fuel the algorithm to the video. And also, if this is your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. And as always, if you guys want to go the extra mile and support a little bit more, then please consider joining the channel members or the patrons. You get exclusive access to exclusive things depending on the tier that you join, and you get exclusive content as well. So please consider doing that if you want to help the channel grow a little bit more than the average like to a video. But with all that being said, let's get into what if Jessie and James challenge their Sinnoh Part 6. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's episode with James as he is moving with vigor in each step. He aims to get to Jubilife City as quickly as possible, so that way he can avoid Jezebel at all costs. As far as he's concerned, as much distance as he can put between him and Eterna City, the better. However, our favorite purple-haired man from Team Rocket is going to find out that he is actually feeling fairly lonely on the road as he misses his friends. Though he had grown accustomed to being apart from them while they were in the Hoenn region, the fact is James really doesn't like being alone, and even though he has his Pokemon with him, it still doesn't substitute for the bickering that Jessie and Meowth offer. But this is going to bring the man to a very starch realization that he's been moving on the road so quickly that he never really stopped for any supplies, and not only he, but his Pokemon are becoming hungry. This is when James' stomach begins to growl and he realizes that he's going to have to find some place to hunker down. Luckily for the man, as the sun begins to caress Mount Coronet as it starts to set, James sees off in the distance a small little town that seems to be just what the man ordered as he takes off running, hoping that there is a Pokemon Center. To which James finds that he's in luck, as this place is a town called Floaroma Town. While it's very small, it does boast a vast amount of beauty with its field upon field of flowers that seem quite out of place in the very cold Sinnoh region. But James isn't complaining. As the night settles across the town, he can see just ahead of him on the road that there is a Pokemon Center, as their outside lights flicker on, signaling that they're still open for business. Knowing that this is going to be a place for him to get a hot meal and a place to get his Pokemon looked at, James decides that he's going to head in as quickly as possible. It doesn't take long for James to find himself in a little bit of mischief, as his newest Pokemon, Rotom, has become quite the frustrating Pokemon to deal with, as Nurse Joy and Chansey do whatever they can to help treat the road-weary travelers. You see, Rotom is a bit on the frustrating side, as it hasn't had a lot of interactions with any humans, so it takes this as an opportunity that it can get a chance to make a really good first impression. However, not everybody is James, and Nurse Joy and Chansey in particular find this whole interaction with the ghost type a little frustrating. This causes James to ask it to calm down a little bit. However, Rotom keeps possessing random machinery throughout the entire Pokemon Center, causing him to malfunction a bit, and this is going to force James's Dusclops to step in. While the ghost type doesn't have a particular issue with Rotom per se, it knows that it's the only one on his team that can really do anything about this, as the Spectre shares the same typing with Rotom, allowing it to at least get the attention of the electric ghost type, signaling that it needs to calm down. There's a time and a place for everything, and this is not it. While Rotom is upset about this, it comes to understand what Dusclops is trying to tell it when it sees James having to apologize for all the mischief that it caused. This causes it to feel a little bit bad as it levitates next to James, kind of signaling that it's sorry for all the trouble that it caused. This forces Nurse Joy to relent, as she says it's not an issue, just don't do anything like that again. They need these machines to take care of Pokemon that are actually hurt. This causes both James and Rotom to begin to bow apologetically as they thank Nurse Joy and Chansey for all of their time, as they've given him and his Pokemon the free and clear to go on about their business, as all of them seem happy and healthy. This immediately gets James's attention, as the first place he wants to stop is going to be the kitchen, as he needs a meal for himself. However, things are going to be interrupted as he recalls his Pokemon, because there's going to be one person that James wasn't expecting to be here in Floaroma Town, and that's Rebecca, the same girl that was giving him troubles back in Eterna City at the contest. She begins to chastise James, saying that his Pokemon are very, very untamed, and he doesn't know where he got that Rotom, but if he plans on competing inside of the Floaroma contest, it's going to be something that's going to cause him to lose, as she giggles to himself. However, the only thing that James heard was contests. What do you mean there's a contest here in Floaroma Town? To which this causes Rebecca to begin to laugh again, as she says he really is clueless. You didn't know there was a contest here? Then why are you even in the city? Why would you even come here in the first place? This whole altercation is causing Rebecca to laugh uncontrollably as she signals for somebody that she knows to come on over and get a load of this guy, as he's completely clueless. Hey Ursula, come take a look. What follows is a girl that seems to have an attitude that is even more stuck up than Jessie, as she and her Eevee walk up to James and side with Rebecca. So is this the one you were telling me about from the Eterna contest, she says. Yeah, it sure is, Ursula. This guy is completely clueless. I can't believe he made it all the way here to Floaroma Town. Ursula goes on to state that if what they just saw was his display of mastery over his Pokemon, then she's sure that they don't have anything to worry about from the contest that is to take place in 3 days' time. However, because James doesn't really have a mean bone in his body, he just takes the insults that they're throwing at him as he tries to poke and prod for information, asking exactly when the contest is happening and where's the hall to sign up, as he didn't really see it on his way into town. However, the two girls just continue to make fun of him, not really giving any answers that he's looking for, as if it was an attempt to drive him off before James would even get a chance to compete in the contest. However, either because of naivety or humiliation, James just puts up with it as he wants to get as much information as he can from the two girls, but they just continue. This eventually forces someone that's been sitting in the corner of the center to step in, as he can no longer take this entire interaction between the three, as he steps forward telling the girls that this is enough. They should know better than to act like this, especially if he is a fellow coordinator. Now, they need to leave the man alone and let him get back to the night that he had planned, before he reports them to Nurse Joy and they get kicked out of the center. This causes Rebecca and Ursula just to kind of turn their noses up to the man, as if they don't feel like he's significant enough to even have any type of weight to have this conversation. But it appears that their opinion has no weight, as they do what they're told before turning and walking away, telling James that they hope not to see him in the contest. After all, it was just an embarrassment the last time Rebecca had to watch it. The two then disappear off into the shadows of the Pokemon Center while James stares at the man, before thanking him for all of the help that he offered. But he really is used to that type of behavior from women who feel like they're better than everybody else. But the man tells them that's nonsense. They shouldn't be treating anything like that. After all, they're all competitors here. This is where the man introduces himself as Nando, and he's a fellow coordinator just like James. He's here for the Floaroma contest, which is in 3 days' time. This immediately gets James's excitement, as he wants to enter this contest. He didn't know it was here in town. Nando simply laughs, as he likes the enthusiasm of the purple-haired man, and he would like to see what James can do. So he offers that how about they get a meal for the night, and then he will take them to the contest hall in the morning, and they can register. And after that, they could possibly practice a little bit. The purple-haired Rocket member has no issue with this, as he's glad to have finally found some sort of companionship, as it's been very lonely without Jessie or Meowth. So this is exactly what Nando and James do. They go on to get a meal as they talk about each other and get to know one another a little bit more. The next morning, they find themselves at the contest hall, where they see a bunch of contestants. However, there are two that stand out. It's Ursula and Rebecca. However, they don't really engage with James, as Nando is by his side, and they feel like that they may be a little bit outmatched when it comes to the harp-wielding man as far as trying to levy insults against James. But this doesn't mean anything, as James is only here for one thing. He wants to enter the contest, and he wants to try out his newest Pokemon, Rotom, to which James has no problem in entering, as Mr. Contesta has made his way here after dealing with the entire incident that happened in the Eterna City and relaunching a very successful contest. Once James is registered, he immediately wants to start working on a routine, as he hasn't really had any time to prepare for this contest, and now he's only got 2 days or so before they gotta actually display whatever abilities that they may have. However, luckily for him, Nando is willing to be his practice partner, as he also wants to polish off a couple of things that he may be able to do for the contest as well. So this is what happens over the next 2 days, and both Nando and James become fully aware of each other's strategy. So they know it's a risk, as they may get paired up inside of the contest, but it's one that they're both willing to take as they've become fast friends. All the while, from the opposite side of the Pokemon Center, the two girls, Rebecca and Ursula, begin to rehearse their routines as they feel that James getting any practice in may be a bad thing, considering that Rebecca finally came clean to Ursula, explaining that James was able to really wow Mr. Contesta and the rest of the crowd. He was an odds-on favorite to win. However, for some reason, he just abandoned the contest as he was being called to the semifinal round, so she doesn't know if he was actually going to, but the way things were going, he was highly praised by everyone, so we might want to be careful. However, while Rebecca seems a little bit wary of James, Ursula feels like she's good enough to beat anything that may come her way, telling her friend not to worry. No matter what they come up with, there's not going to be any issue with her obtaining the ribbon from this contest. But Rebecca begs to differ, as she explains to Ursula she's not the only one here that is out to get that. What follows is a very quick 2 days, as we find ourselves inside of the Floaroma contest hall, with James standing with his first round pick, his very eccentric and very jittery Rotom. James actually has a very unique strategy planned for the ghost type, as he's planning to use its sporadic nature to wow the judges, and this is exactly what happens, as James is the first one up in the demonstration rounds, with Rotom using its ghostly and electric powers to begin to cause all the lights in the stadium to go off in different colors that they weren't programmed for. This allows Rotom to really shine in this type of environment, as it begins to dissipate between our plane of existence and its own, demonstrating just what it's actually made of, as its plasmatic body fades in and out of sight, but with each maneuver glows in a different kind of light. This really impresses the judges, as Rotom has great control over itself, being able to spread far and wide to control so much technology. This immediately gets James past the demonstration rounds and into the first round of battling. This causes the purple-haired man to celebrate, as he was very wary of using Rotom, but through his practicing with Nando, he was convinced to use it, as Nando saw something that James didn't. And this leads us through the rest of the demonstration rounds, as we find that not only has Nando and Rebecca, but also Ursula made their way into the top 8 with James as well. While James is proud that Rotom was able to get him into the top 8 after all the things that they have gone through and all the teasing from Ursula and Rebecca, the fact of the matter is he's going to have to choose something with a little bit more aggressive personality here that can control itself a little bit better. So he tells Rotom that even though it wants to go into this battle, it's going to have to sit aside, though he'll allow it to stay with him on the side of the contest battlefield, as he wants the ghost type to watch how a contest can actually be performed with battles, which Rotom is more than happy to do, as James being the one friend that it's actually made in this life, it wants to do whatever it can to appease him, to which in the first round, Rotom gets a first-hand look at what James was talking about, as he chooses to use Dusclops in the battle rounds. The ghost type proves that it's a master of its craft, as it faces off against a random coordinator and what is known as a Vespiquen. While the bug type is powerful, the fact of the matter is James's Dusclops has an ability to really turn things on its head, using its ghostly powers to control anything that's thrown at them, and the deciding factor for their first battle in the top 8 is the fact that a power gem fails when Dusclops uses its confusion to catch it and send it careening right back at Vespiquen, that not only costs it the rest of its points, but also knocks it out, securing James's spots in the top 4. What follows is another demonstration between the rounds, as not only Nando but Rebecca and Ursula also make their way to the top 4. The two girls are feeling confident that one of them is going to get the chance to eliminate James. They're not sure really which one. However, the one that they don't want to face off against is Nando, as he's proven to be quite the tricky coordinator with his bug and grass types. However, as they announce the top 4, the realization sets in that they're both going to have to face off against James and Nando, as Rebecca will be facing none other than Nando, while James is going to be facing off against Ursula. However, Ursula doesn't seem to be that worried, as it seems to be that the girl has some sort of secret weapon. However, for James, that's a whole nother story, as the purple-haired man is looking out into the crowd to make sure the same thing that happened in Eterna City isn't happening out here. It's where Jessie is randomly showing up in pursuit of the purple-haired man. But luckily, he hasn't spotted spotted the red-haired harlot, so he feels like he's in the free and clear, though it does seem that he is a little bit on edge, and this is on full display when he heads into his battle with Ursula. At first, this causes problems, as it seems like him and Dusclops aren't exactly in synchronicity, as Ursula reveals the Pokemon that she intends to beat James with, as she calls on her Jigglypuff, a normal type that Dusclops is going to have a little bit of a hard time battling against, as the ghost type can't use half of the moves that it knows. All the while, it seems like Jigglypuff has exactly what it needs to counter Dusclops, and we see this as with each move that James and Dusclops makes, their points continue to drop rapidly, even more and more, creating a bigger distance between Ursula and James. This causes the girl to become confident that James isn't going to be able to win this battle. She believes that she has a far enough lead that she's going to be able to basically coast on cruise control. However, once James begins to get his footing and Dusclops begins to feel a little bit more confident itself, with James finally snapping out of it at the call of Nando for him to bring himself back to reality, this is where the purple-haired man begins to demonstrate his actual abilities in contests, and Ursula gets to see firsthand how masterful James really is, as he uses a combination of Confusion and Will-O-Wisp to offset Jigglypuff, as the normal balloon type ends up enveloped in a burn when James uses the combination of those two moves to counter one of its moves that tries to hit Dusclops. This results in a massive point drop from Ursula, causing the girl to lose confidence in that lead that she once had. But she quickly goes on the offensive to try and throw James off of his game, but now that James is fully focused on the contest, him and Dusclops are able to quickly close the gaps in points and eventually put it into the point to where the timer runs out and Ursula is just a sliver lower than James, allowing him to move on to the finals of this contest. All the while, Ursula is completely dumbfounded how she lost that. She was so confident that she was going to be able to beat this idiot, but he was able to turn it around on her. This is not going to be something that she's going to soon forget. All the while, Rebecca is now beginning to panic, as if she is able to beat Nando, then now she's going to have to go against James, and she just got a full display once again of what he's actually capable of when his attention isn't divided. But unfortunately, her whole mindset is going to work against her, as her attention is divided based upon the fact that she has to beat Nando and then she has to go through James. That causes her to not be able to keep up with Nando, as he is easily able to use his Kricketot to outclass her Bronzor, and she ends up losing to the bug type, which is a complete and total shock to everybody, as bug types are supposed to have no type of effect on steel types whatsoever. This just proves exactly how distracted that Rebecca was in the entire final round that she was in, causing both her and Ursula to get into an argument, which is forced to be broken up by some security guards as they tell the two to leave the venue. They're not allowed to be here at the orders of Mr. Contesta. This causes the duo to have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to Nando and James, and they're not going to soon forget it as they are escorted off the premises. This leaves our two combatants in the finals, as James and Nando figured that they might have to face each other sometime throughout the contest, but they didn't think it would actually be on the final battle. This is where Nando tells James that he wants to see everything that him and Dusclops can do, so not to hold anything back, to which James is super excited. He's actually been able to get to the finals, and this is his first finals battle of the Sinnoh region. His hopes are high that he won't choke here and he'll actually be able to finally get a ribbon. And as the timer begins to tick down, the two engage in a battle. But unfortunately, both Kricketot and Dusclops are completely even. The two know each other so well, as they spent a couple of days training together. While both James and Nando find themselves at an odd position, neither one of them can get past the defenses of the other, and with each exchange, they both find themselves losing the same amount of points to put them at a dead even ringer. This is going to force them to get a little bit creative, as the only way that either one of them are going to be able to win is for them to think outside of the box. This is when Nando has an idea. He thinks that he may be able to force Dusclops into a rough position if he can put it to sleep, but he needs to expand the reach of Kricketot's Sing, so he orders it to use a Sing in combination with a Bug Buzz. This causes the psionic frequencies that put Pokemon to sleep to be able to carry over a greater distance, to which James really doesn't have any type of defense to, or at least he thought he didn't. But then he thinks back to what he had done against Jigglypuff by using a combination of Confusion with Will-O-Wisp. What if he did that again, but instead of using Confusion, he combined it with, and then he tells Dusclops to use a Will-O-Wisp and hit it with a Shadow Punch, to which the spectral Pokemon does, causing a barrage of flames to spew throughout the entire contest area. This causes Kricketot to lose lose focus as it is forced to dodge the flames that rain down on it, and this is exactly the opening that James was looking for, as Dusclops is able to use his confusion to secure a firm psychic hold on the bug type. Nando gives whatever orders he can to try and break its hold, but it's too late, as the Shadow Punch that was launched by Dusclops before Kricketot got ensnared in the confusion comes barreling down the field as it pushes through what's left of the flames to connect with Kricketot, knocking it out and showing just how creative James can be in a situation when his back's to the wall. However, James is in a stunned silence as he is still trying to wrap his head around what just happened. Kricketot was knocked out. That means he won. The man can't believe it. He was actually able to secure his first ribbon of the Sinnoh region, which as soon as the announcement is made, he snaps back to reality before celebrating with Dusclops as Rotom levitates next to him, happy that both of its friends were able to secure this victory as a team and it was able to play a part. What follows is James being presented with the Floaroma ribbon, telling the man that they hope to see him in other contests as he has a bright future. James thanks Mr. Contesta, even though the president would like to know why James left Eterna City, to which the man says he had a bit of emergency, but not to worry. He doesn't plan on doing anything like that again. It's here that we fade back to the Pokemon Center as Nando is preparing to leave. He thanks James for all the time that they spent together, and he looks forward to seeing them at another contest. James tells Nando that he's grateful for all the time that they spent together as well, and he hopes to get the chance to actually battle him again. After all, he hasn't done something this fun in a long time. Nando then waves as he turns to head off to the next contest. But as the man disappears over the hill, a very stark realization sets in as James remembers that he has a mission and Jubilite will be his next stop. Now we swap over to Jessie and Meowth. The two have been on the road for a couple of days since that scolding they got from Atori back in the Pokemon Center in Eterna City, but they have finally reached their targeted destination in the Valley of Windworks. However, they find themselves in a confusing positions as they don't understand why anyone would want anything to do with this place. It's very barren, and there's not really many things going on here. A lone building with a bunch of windmills that captures the natural wind flow of the Sinnoh region to help power the vast cities across the entire terrain. This has both Meowth and Jessie confused. However, they both know one thing. They need to set up surveillance across the entire valley and get to work as soon as possible. So they split it, and within a couple of hours they managed to do so, covering the entire terrain, even tapping into the energy of the power plant that is the Valley of the Windworks. Meowth is feeling very confident in himself and accomplished at all the work that they've gotten done, stating that if this was anybody else, then it wouldn't have been done on such a grand scale in such a short amount of time. However, as the sun begins to set behind Mount Coronet, Jessie comments that the one thing that they don't have is shelter, as they've been forced to camp out ever since they left Eterna City, and it's one thing that she is not too keen on. However, Meowth tells her to quit griping. All they gotta do is just maintain visuals with the valley, and make sure that nothing happens here, while waiting for those traitors, Butch and Cassie, to show up, and this secret organization that they've discovered. And by the looks of things, it seems like they've gotten here first, so they'll have the upper hand on everything. Jessie merely slumps forward as she looks deep into the fire as their food cooks, hoping that Meowth is right. She has other things that she would like to do, but unfortunately for the redhead and the scratch cat, 3 more days end up going by and nothing of importance happens. Not even an alarm being tripped by a wild Pokemon. This has caused Jessie to become restless as she can no longer take just sitting around doing nothing. Pulling out her map of the Sinnoh region, Jessie realizes that there's a gym not too far south of here, and she begins to contemplate the possibility of going to challenge the leader and getting back before anything of real importance happens. But she wants to do this in secret, trying to keep it from Meowth. However, the Scratch Cat is no fool, and he catches on to Jessie's plans, as without James around, there's no one else to really occupy its attention, and he quickly picks up on the fact that she wants to challenge the gym, resulting in an argument between the two to break out. Meowth states that they have a solid lead here, so Jessie shouldn't be going off on her own whims, trying to accomplish such fruitless tasks. However, Jessie reminds Meowth that that's the reason why they're here. She needs to challenge the gyms to maintain the cover, and if they stay in one place for too long, or in a group for too much time, then it could alert whoever they're chasing, to which they still don't know who they are, that the Team Rocket presence has made its way to the Sinnoh region, and that's the last thing they want. While Meowth knows that that's not the true reason Jessie wants to go, it does acknowledge the fact that she is right, and they do have to continue searching for this secret organization, and her going to another city may may be just what they need to help widen their array of information on this secret group. So reluctantly, it agrees that Jessie should head to Oreburgh City. However, he tells her not to take so much time, as if he manages to accomplish anything while she's gone and she doesn't hurry back, then it's going to take all the credit for all the hard work, including laying all the surveillance equipment across the valley. Jessie demands that Meowth do no such thing, as they both worked equally as hard. However, the Scratch Cat just reinforces this, telling the redhead that she should spend less time arguing and more time getting on with this task that she has set upon herself. After all, time is ticking away, and the longer she takes to get on her way, the longer she's going to take to get back. Reluctantly, Jessie knows that Meowth is right, and before she goes, she takes a moment to pause as she shows a brief inkling of caring for the Scratch Cat, to which Meowth tells her not to get all sappy. He's going to be here when she gets back, and she shouldn't be losing her focus on this gym battle that she's going to undertake. After all, she doesn't want to end up the same way that it did when she lost to that gym leader in Eterna City. She needs to be focused, so that way they can find out exactly what is going on here in the region of Sinnoh. This fires Jessie up as she wants to lay into the Scratch Cat, but she knows that Meowth is right, so she uses the frustration of what it just said to her advantage as she begins to put distance between it and her. Luckily, this motivation is exactly what Jessie needs, as she was able to close the gap between the Valley of Windworks and Oreburgh City in a little over a day, finding herself at high noon in front of the gym of Oreburgh City. However, there's another problem that Jessie realizes she doesn't have an answer to. She knows nothing about this gym, and she's going in blind. However, she knows that her time is limited, and she doesn't have the luxury of waiting around to try and get any type of advantage here. So she decides to throw caution to the wind and head inside in hopes that she has exactly what she needs to take on this mysterious gym. Luckily for the redhead, it's almost empty inside, as there's a lone man in the middle of the gym with his Pokemon, and this immediately causes Jessie to shake a bit as she realizes exactly what type of gym this is. A rock type gym. This is where the man in what looks like a coal miner's hat turns to greet her, introducing himself as Roark. He asks if she's going to be challenging the gym today, to which Jessie confirms by presenting a Pokeball, declaring that she wishes to challenge the Oreburgh Gym for a badge, and she won't be taking no for an answer. This causes the gym leader Roark to laugh, as he likes her enthusiasm. The man then declares that she's in luck, as he hasn't had any challengers today, so she's going to be the first person that gets a chance to battle him. How does a 3-on-3 sound? To which Jessie, still feeling her loss at the Eterna Gym, has no problem agreeing to, as she wants to make sure this is a definitive win. After all, with only using 2 Pokemon last time, she didn't even get a chance to try and earn that badge. Roark tells her that it's perfect, and asks her to take her side of the battlefield, and they will begin momentarily once he can get his referee in here. Moments later, both the gym leader and the redhead find themselves across from each other, as the gym attendant stands in the middle, declaring that this is going to be a 3-on-3 for the Oreburgh City gym badge. Jessie will be allowed substitutions, while Roark will not. The battle will be over when one side is out of all of their Pokemon, and since Jessie walked in when all of Roark's Pokemon were in the midst of playing with each other, he decides that he's going to keep them all out, declaring that he's going to let the redhead decide which one she would like to face first. This throws Jessie a little bit off guard, as she's never had a gym leader declare this before. However, the Rocket Maiden quickly realizes that she can use this to her advantage by tailoring the battles to the way she wants them to go, which means there's not going to be anything that she doesn't have any information on. So she quickly declares that she wants Roark to use Geodude first, to which the little boulder with arms gladly levitates forward, as it is excited to engage in battle. Well, that's a fine choice, Roark says, but I hope just because you know all of my Pokemon, that doesn't lead you to a misconception that this will be an easy one. After all, I fully plan on making sure that you don't walk away with a gym badge today. However, Jessie doesn't hear any of this, as she is mentally going over the roster that she has on her belt, realizing that there's really only 2 choices that she would be comfortable with in a gym battle against a rock-type trainer. And her first one is going to be the first choice that she used in the previous gym badge, as she declares, "Lileep, your time to battle." As the prehistoric Hoenmon emerges from his ball, this catches Roark's attention, as he compliments Jessie on having something that is that well defined, considering it's both a rock and a grass type. She must be well traveled, considering that's a Pokemon exclusive to the Hoenn region. He doesn't even find many fossils for that particular type of Pokemon inside of the mine here in Oreburgh. The redhead comments that she was in Hoenn for a while, and that's where she managed to get it, from an old fossil collector. But enough with the pleasantries, let's get the battle underway, to which Roark has no problem giving Jessie the first move, to which she wastes no time in setting herself up for success in her eyes, as she commands for Lileep to use a move called Ingrain, so that way it won't be losing any HP during this battle. However, Roark isn't going to let this get out of control control, as he immediately commands for Geodude to use a move called Defense Curl. This causes the rock type's body to begin to harden as Lileep plants its roots deep within the gym floor. This seems to be a stalemate, Jessie thinks to herself. However, she's not going to let that go along for much longer, as she tells Lileep to use a Bullet Seed, to which the prehistoric mon happily fires off in the direction of Geodude. However, this is where Roark is going to reveal Geodude's true strength, as he commands for it to use a Rollout, and suddenly it's on a move, spinning faster than Jessie could ever think that a rock type was capable of, as it tears through the battlefield, easily evading the Bullet Seeds as it begins to close the gap between Lileep and it. Before Jessie knows it, the grass type is struck with the rock type move. While on paper, the damage that was received should be neutral, Jessie's going to find out firsthand that this isn't the case, as that defense curl that Roark had it perform before the rollout is proving to be the difference maker, as Geodude smacks square into it, causing even more damage than what was suspected. However, just as Lileep becomes erect again, little time has passed, and Geodude is already on the other side of the battlefield, pivoting its way back towards the grass type, preparing for its second pass, which is going to be far more devastating than the first one. Luckily for Jessie, she thinks she may have a response to this. The only question is her grass type up for the challenge in handling this type of power? But before she knows it, she's going to have to find out in real time, as Geodude once again crashes into the Lileep in an attempt to cause even more damage than before. This is where Jessie orders her plan into action, as she commands the grass type to use a Constrict in an attempt to bind the rock type and preventing it from moving out of the grasp of the grass type. At first, this doesn't look like it's going to work, as Geodude begins to pull away, with Roark spectating that this isn't going to be her wheelhouse, as Geodude is a little bit too powerful for Jessie's grass type to handle. But it looks like something's coming into play, as Lileep's suction cups are beginning to bind onto Geodude's surface, finding spots and grooves to where it can finally get secure and prevent the rock type from being able to escape. This puts Jessie in an advantageous position, as Geodude is finally brought to a stop from spinning as it tightens its grip on it. Before they know it, Roark finds himself in some deep trouble, as Jessie begins to compound the attack with the Bullet Seed. The only thing Roark can do is to try to mitigate the damage by calling for a hidden power, and luckily for the gym leader, this just so happens to be of the fire nature. But unfortunately for Geodude, because it's been bound by Lileep so tightly, it can barely move its arms, which means that the fire itself can barely get out of the grasp of the rock type, and the flames end up doing more harm than good as they scorch Geodude's surface while being pelted with the grass type attack. And before the rock type gym leader knows it, his first choice in the battle has been brought to its knees, as the Lileep releases its grip and drops the boulder with spirals in its eyes and is declared unable to battle. Quite impressed with Jessie's ingenuity there, Roark compliments the redhead, telling her that he wasn't expecting Lileep to be able to counter like that. This is going to make the battle fun, and as he recalls Geodude, he'd asked Jessie to kindly make her next selection in the battle, but the redhead is going to be stopped when she tries to recall Lileep, but is stopped by one of the choices she made in the previous battle, as Ingrain is still in effect. Lileep is unable to swap out, and until it's knocked out, Jessie's going to be forced to use it. This puts the redheaded in a precarious position, as she didn't really know that that was a side effect of the move, but luckily the grass type has gained some extra health from the battle that it took with Geodude, so she hopes that it'll be enough to allow it to fend off the next Pokemon on Roark's roster. But unfortunately for her, she still has to make that choice, which she's kind of tore on. She sees the small little one with little arms over there not really being intimidating at all, while Roark's giant Onix seems to be the true trouble. But she is a Pokemon ahead, and maybe if she can get Onix into the battle next, then it'll give her a chance to at least cause some serious damage to it, even if Lileep can't wrap it up. So with her mind finally made up, she decides to tell Roark that she would like to face his Onix next, to which the gym leader is happily to oblige, as she tells the rock snake to take to the battlefield. With a mighty roar, the rock snake begins to slither its way onto the battlefield, staring down Lileep, who seems to have the same blank expression on its face that it always has, as it begins to glow in a semi-green aura, signifying that it's being healed by the Ingrain. Roark knows this is the problem, but he's not going to let this stop his rock snake from coming out on top, as the referee begins the wave for the next battle, and Roark decides that he's going to take the first move, as he calls for a move called Stealth Rocks. This completely sets Jessie off guard, as she was expecting something that caused some serious damage, but some rocks just appear in the air around Lileep and then dematerialize, as if the move failed. However, this isn't going to be a time that Jessie wastes, as she orders Lileep to use an acid, as Sonix is a little bit too far away for a Constrict or a Bullet Seed to make any true damage. While the grass type is able to secure the attack and cause some minimal damage to Onix, it really wasn't felt by the rock snake, as it merely just grunts as Roark gives its next command calling for a slam, to which Onix happily does, throwing its entire body in the direction of Lileep. This immediately causes Jessie to begin to panic, as she knows the grass type isn't going to be able to dodge it, so it's going to be forced to take it. But luckily, as Onix begins to close the gap, Jessie knows that she can get some serious damage in, calling for a bullet seed, to which Lileep is able to happily pelt the rock snake, causing a decent amount of damage to build up before Onix slams into it with all the force of its body. However, just like the rollout before, this damage was far greater than what Jessie had expected, and Lileep is left a little bit wobbly after the attack. Realizing that Ingrain isn't healing it as much as she had thought, Jessie begins to plan her next move. But before she can do anything, Roark is on the attack again, with Onix ordering it to use a move called Double Edge. Suddenly, the rock type begins to glow in a destructive white aura as it comes barreling down with a speed that Jessie wasn't even aware that was capable of, before slamming into Lileep with all the force that it can muster in its body, causing a cloud of dust to kick up, veiling the results of that attack in a shroud of mystery. It takes a few moments, but Jessie is the unfortunate witness to the outcome of this, as it seems that Lileep was unable to handle the stress of that devastating move, as Lileep has been uprooted from its ingrain and now lays unconscious, several feet from where it had made its home to begin with at the beginning of the battle. This gives Roark the win, as the redhead recalls her grass type, thanking it for all the effort that it put into the battle. It was able to cause some serious damage, but now she has to decide on who she's going to go with to face off against this giant rock snake. It's clear that Onix is the most powerful of Roark's 3 Pokemon that have been displayed here today, so she needs something that's going to be able to at least keep up with its speed or outpace it while causing some serious damage, which she thinks she may have the Pokemon just for the job, as she holds it in her hand before declaring, "Sealeo, your time to battle." The bouncing ball water type emerges from its Pokeball before rolling around the battlefield, signifying that it's happy to finally get a chance to engage with some activities with its trainer. So if grass won't work, then you're going to try water, I see. Well, just note, it may be a little bit more difficult for you to beat my Steelix than using type advantage, Roark says, as the match is waved to start, and he gives Jessie the first move. But she's going to get the shock of her life, as those rocks that had dematerialized suddenly reappear around Sealeo before clamping down on the ice type and causing a decent amount of damage before dematerializing once again. Hey, wait, the battle hadn't even begun yet. What was that? Oh, you didn't know what Stealth Rock does. Well, let me explain it to you, Roark says. It's a move that doesn't do any damage initially, but upon you switching out with any of your Pokemon, it's going to cause damage per each switch out. And that damage only gets worse when your Pokemon is at a type disadvantage against the move, as it's a rock-based move. And considering Sealeo is half ice, that must have really hurt the first stage evolution, to which Roark isn't wrong, as Jessie looks at her water type only to see that it flinched pretty hard from that attack. The redhead suddenly has a realization that Roark, just like his rock Pokemon, aims to drag this battle out as long as possible and wither her Pokemon down over the duration of the battle, which means she needs to use Sealeo to take out Onix here and now. So, as the wave for the battle is given to start, Jessie calls for Sealeo to use a water gun, to which it immediately executes, dousing Onix in another round of super effective attacks. However, Roark seems to be unfazed by this, as he orders Onix to use another double edge, to which it immediately clads itself once again in a destructive white aura before slamming down in the direction of Sealeo. Luckily for Jessie, it is able to move, unlike its predecessor, which allows the water type to begin to bounce around the battlefield, evading most of the damage that it would have taken from that super destructive attack. Realizing that she may have an opportunity to take a play out of Roark's book, she commands Sealeo to use a defense curl, automatically increasing the ability for it to stave off any physical damage that it may be able to come in contact with. This gives Jessie a sliver of hope, as once again another double edge is launched in the direction of her water type, but because of the defense curl and the ability for Sealeo to kind of bounce around the battlefield, it takes little to no damage in this effect. This gives Jessie an idea, as she begins to tell Sealeo that it's time for them to go on the offensive, and she commands for it to use a move called Ice Ball, to which it immediately begins to form before firing it in the direction of Onix, to which it takes head on as it launches another double edge in the direction of the water type. But it seems to do nothing, as Onix crashes straight through the attack while moving in the direction of Sealeo. And here it's revealed the gamble that Jessie played, as allowing Sealeo to go on the offensive prevented it from being very defensive in its ability to roll around and bounce in the battlefield, as it was forced to kind of slow down in order to aim the slow attack that didn't really seem to do any damage in the direction of Onix, allowing the rock snake to finally connect with a double edge, sending the water type careening into the gym wall. But this wasn't enough to knock it out, out, as Sealeo manages to roll back onto the battlefield, and they begin the same exchange once more. And once again, Jessie calls for another ice ball. However, this time it's slightly bigger, but takes a little bit more time to execute, as it once again fires in the direction of Onix, and the same process is repeated to where the rock snake smashes through the ice ball and connects with Sealeo once more. But once again, thanks to the defense curl, it wasn't completely knocked out, and it's still going to give everything it has in this battle, as the same pattern continues once again. This time, however, the ice ball is much larger than the previous two, as Sealeo has reached the third turn in trying to use this move. This allows it to gain a lot more power, but unfortunately it's going to take a lot more time, as once again it fires in the direction of Onix, to which Roark takes the head-on battle style, smashing through the ice type move and slamming into Sealeo, but this time it unfortunately has a definitive end, as the water type is sent careening into the gym wall for the third and final time, knocking it out and bringing this battle to an end. But Jessie standing there in shock, unable to believe that it didn't actually work. She thought Sealeo had far more endurance than that, while Roark is complimenting the redhead on the amount of damage that she was able to cause to his rock snake, as Onix is breathing very heavily. And truth be told is, it was anyone's game there. The fact of the matter is, if Sealeo was able to launch that ice ball a little bit quicker, then Onix would have been knocked out. As Jessie recalls the water type, she begins to contemplate her options, as things aren't looking as bright as they were when she came into the gym, as she immediately realizes that both Numel and Yanma are not going to be able to take down two separate rock type Pokemon back to back. That just leaves one choice that immediately causes a shiver of irritation and fear to run up the spine of the redhead. But reluctantly, she has no choice, as Roark is asking her to present her third and final Pokemon, to which, even though there's hesitation in her voice, Jessie declares, "Exploud, your time to battle." Emerging from the ball, the normal type is immediately kicked into a frenzy, as it is ready to throw down with Onix, as it immediately identifies as somewhat of an alpha in the area. This immediately causes Exploud to take off and engage in the battle, barely giving the referee enough time to wait for it to start. Seeing that this thing is far higher level than any of her other Pokemon, Roark realizes that he's going to have to be on the defensive here, so he orders Onix to use a move called Screech, to which Jessie has seen before, but she's never seen used in this type of capacity, as the rock snake begins to fire it in a direct beam in the direction of Exploud, kind of like a shield, preventing it from getting any closer to the rock snake. But unfortunately, because of the successive damage that it had taken from both Lileep and Sealeo, Exploud is able to push through, as it connects with a move that Jessie has never seen it used before, and it slams Onix into the ground before knocking it out and being declared the winner. The redhead is completely unsure of what just happened there, as Roark recalls the rock snake, telling Jessie that her normal type is quite powerful. However, she may want to rein it in, as if the gym attendant has waited his hand even a fraction of a second later, then Exploud would have been disqualified for engaging in battle before it was actually officially able to. This snaps the redhead out of her confusion, as she begins to yell at Exploud, which catches both Roark and the gym attendant off guard. It's almost like Jessie has completely forgotten that the two are there, as she is face to face with the normal type and they are engaging in some sort of argument that only those two actually understand. However, as this is going on, something unexpected happens, with the third Pokemon of Roark's party stepping forward and letting out a cry, calling out Exploud, which forces the normal type and Jessie to stop mid-argument and turning their head to look at it and its trainer. "Well, it seems you guys have called out my Craniados. It feels like it needs to test its power against your Exploud. So what do you say you guys put your bickering aside for the time being and we get this final battle underway?" This immediately causes Jessie to begin to turn to argue with Exploud, telling it that it needs to listen. However, the normal type isn't really hearing anything that she says, merely staring down Craniados, not really sure of what this thing is made of. It seems that the normal type has managed to connect the dots with something that Jessie hasn't quite figured out yet. But the redhead is going to be forced off the field when the gym attendant tells her if she doesn't stop arguing with Exploud, then she's going to be disqualified for lack of continuation in the battle. This immediately gets her to quiet down before she walks back to her side, and she tells Exploud that they need to be on the same page, at least for this time. However, once again, the normal type is not really hearing anything that Jessie is saying, kind of like something primal has come over it for the time being. But the gym attendant gives the wave for the battle to start, and almost like Exploud was paying attention to everything that it said, this is immediately when it kicks into action, as Roark gives the command for a head smash, wasting no time in launching the most powerful move that this small little rock type type has to offer, but the normal type isn't going to be detoured by this, as it immediately wants to counter with another one of those moves that Jessie hadn't seen before, to which the redhead pulls out her Pokedex to realize that it's something called Hammer Arm, an extremely powerful fighting type move, to which she realizes Exploud must have learned that when it was being trained by the other Team Rocket grunts, as come to think of it, she hadn't really scanned its moveset before this moment. However, there's going to be something that comes into play here. As Exploud begins to execute the move, Cranidos is able to easily outpace the fist as it is brought down on it before smashing the normal type inside of its gut with the most powerful rock type move that this thing could muster. This has enough force to actually send Exploud careening back into the gym wall, leaving it cratered upon impact. This causes Jessie to stand there speechless as Cranidos begins to stomp its foot before letting out a loud roar and glowing in some sort of light. This causes Roark to smile as he knew it was close to evolving. Before Jessie knows it, she's staring down the evolved version of what she thought was probably Roark's weakest Pokemon, to which she has finally come to realize was a grave miscalculation on her part, as this thing seems to be his most powerful. Pulling out her Pokedex, she realizes that this thing it's one of the Sinnoh region's ancient fossil Pokemon, using its head as its main source of power. The redhead realizes that she may have bitten off more than she can chew, as it seems that Exploud is down for the count. However, in the pile of rubble that is now beside her, a brief growl can be heard before an explosion of rubble is sent in all directions across the gym, as Exploud lets out a hyper voice, freeing itself from its prison before staring down its newly evolved opponent. Good, I was hoping you weren't done yet. Now, what do you say we get back to battle, eh Jessie? To which the redhead just merely nods as she looks at Exploud, while it has a look of pure anger and fury plastered across its face, before it stomps back onto the battlefield, only to come face to face with Rampardos as the two alphas stare each other down. The two are waiting for the other to make the first move, to which it seems in this brief moment, Exploud is waiting for Jessie to give the command, while Rampardos is patiently waiting on its trainer, to which they both begin to execute as Jessie commands for another hyper voice, while Rampardos is ordered to fire off a Zen Headbutt from Roark. Straightening out its neck and lowering its skull, Rampardos begins to charge across the battlefield as it is pelted with sound waves that slowly begin to take their effects on its body, as the high impact move from Exploud is displayed as its most powerful move. This causes its feet and its muscles to slowly begin to contort as it loses grip with its feet, and this attempted Zen Headbutt loses its target as one of Rampardos' legs give out just as it begins to close the gap between it and Exploud, and it sends itself careening into the gym floor. This is amplified when Jessie sees there is an opening here, and she tells Exploud to now use a Hammer Arm, to which the normal type wastes no time bringing down another supercharged fist onto the skull of Rampardos, driving it even deeper into the gym floor. This leaves Roark stunned as a cloud of dust begins to envelop the area. He didn't think that Jessie would use Exploud's move as a form of attacking his Pokemon's muscles. However, little does the gym leader know, Jessie hadn't actually intended that. She was just trying to fire off any random move that she could think of based upon the moveset that she had solved from Exploud, and she knew that Hammer Arm wasn't going to be a good choice, so she decided to try and attack from a distance. However, as the dust begins to settle, Jessie tells Exploud to back off a little bit. She doesn't want to put it in a compromising position if Rampardos is still able to battle, to which the rock type proves it still is, as from within the settling dust it emerges with another Zen Headbutt aimed for the direction of Exploud. However, this time Jessie thinks that she may have something that can counter this even better for both of them, as she tells the normal type this is going to be the last thing that they have to do for this battle if they pull it off right. Now, use Crunch. Suddenly, Exploud uses its massive jaws to clamp down on the head of Rampardos as it charges straight into the gullet of the normal type. Roark can't believe what he's seen as he watches Exploud slowly begin to swallow the cranium of Rampardos, which is massive in size with all the spikes that protrude from around the head. But what follows is even more impressive, as without a command from its trainer, Exploud begins to fire off another hyper voice that immediately uses Rampardos as a conduit, causing the rock type to begin to vibrate on a cellular level. This puts it in a very compromising position as it is unable to do anything with its short arms and its legs off the ground. Roark can do nothing but watch as the attack subsides and Exploud releases Rampardos from its grasp, dropping the fossil and bringing this battle to an end, as Jessie and Exploud are declared the winner, with the normal type letting out a fierce cry of dominance as it stands above its gym opponent. Jessie can't believe that she won, as Roark approaches her and presents her with the Coal Badge, complimenting her on her ability to think on her feet, and using her Exploud's unique physiology to gather a win here today. Roark has to admit that he wasn't well versed in an Exploud, as it's a Pokemon that he hasn't ever battled before, and he thinks that him and Rampardos have a little bit more work to do, as he wasn't expecting it to evolve so quickly. But that's okay. If they get a chance to battle again, he's sure that he'll be able to put up a better fight. Jessie gladly takes the Coal Badge, thanking the gym leader for the opportunity to battle him, before recalling Exploud as it begins to rampage throughout the gym, feeling victorious and satisfied in its ability to quail the rival that it had deemed in this gym battle. Now riding high on Cloud 9, Jessie walks outside of the gym, only to get a call on the phone. It's Meow, to which the redhead happily answers, "You won't believe what just happened." But on the other end, she gets a very low and raspy voice, as it seems like Meowth is in pain. "You better hurry. Dangerous." And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? What did you think about James winning his first contest ribbon of the Sinnoh region in Floaroma Town, and his ability to use Rotom and Dusclops, and the new friend that he made in Nando? How about the girl Ursula, who seems to have a personal vendetta against James? Or what about Jessie and her first gym battle that she actually had in the Sinnoh region, and the badge that she was able to win? What about Exploud and the battle that it had with Rampardos, and it's seemingly listening to Jessie for the duration of the battle? Do you think that Jessie is finally starting to get through to it, or it was just a momentary thing as Exploud realized that it was going to have to use her as an ends to a mean? And what about this call that Jessie got from Meow? What happened in the day that she's been gone? And is the feline going to be okay? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below.